Only when you do that.
Not now, right? Don't do that.
We see it, just don't turn around if you don't want proof.
Turn around.
Need a motion to resume the regular meeting of the Board of Education. So moved.
Second.
Roll call please on the motion.
Yes. Yes. Mr. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, please stand for the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just want to take a minute to acknowledge and thank all of the folks, current staff, former staff, students, parents who were involved with the MLK program the other night. Did a terrific job. For those of you who were there, the gospel chorus always does a terrific job of performing a number of very difficult songs to sing, and I thought they did a terrific job. There was a very good crowd. Again, thank you for all of the folks who participated in that event. With that, Mr. Tretheway, we have a couple of presentations, I believe.
We do. Some very happy teachers out there. We get some grants, some repeaters, I see. Very good. Mrs. Dodd. Oh, hello, Mrs. Dodd. PTA mini grant presentations. Mrs. Dodd is our PTA president. Looking for a round of applause.
Thank you. Good evening, board. Good evening, everyone. Every year, the Manchester PTA, for about 8 years now, have been able to give mini grants to the teachers in our district. The teachers fill out applications, and they basically tell us what they want, how much they need, and then it goes before our panel, our committee, and they have to deliberate on which ones they can say yes to and which ones they can't. It's always hard because we get more grants than we have money for. This year, it was actually worse because we almost had enough money for everybody. So what normally would take a few hours took a lot of hours because they were all trying to figure out how can we say yes to everything. And of course, we could not. This year, we had $6,000 to give away. And we had a request over 8,000. So it was really close, which made it really hard. Everyone on the committee just kept saying, this is so hard. This is so hard. I mean, they even went on their phones trying to find bargains so they could have money left over to give more grants. But in the end, we ended up with 13 grant winners. And we'll start at the high school. Our first grant winner, Sarah Tifo, for honors choir uniforms.
You couldn't get through the TV.
Next is Michael Pollock for funds towards a marching band's golf cart.
I can accept that.
Next is Tina O'Connell for Martin Angelina tabletop easels. There's a little story behind her. She had requested 37.
There's always for that. There's always a story.
There's always a story. She requested 37, and of course, in our grant committee's process to try and be able to save money, they all went on their phones and on the internet, and we were able to find them for cheaper than she was. So we're going to be able to give you more than the 37 that you
Thank you.
asked.
You're so excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to MTES, Tony Basil, for second grade Island Beach State Park class trip. All right, next is, we're moving on to middle school. Encouraging reluctant readers with high interest reads, book variety, from Miranda Wilson. Melly Ann Parr for iPad Mini 2 and iTunes gift cards that are going toward the Media Center and Maker Space Station. She could not be here today. Next is Regina Robb and Robin Struckey for Independent Reading Challenge book assortment. We move on to Regional Day School. Megan LaBusta, Enhancing Literacy book varieties. Next is Regional Day School, Nikki Mazer. What did I say? Ridgeway, both in R. Building Engagement for the Wonders of Science with Super Science Magazine, grade 3. Robin Palmer, iPad, learning with iPads, 2 iPad minis, and 2 protective cases.
She's good. She's open.
Crystal Policastro, Suzanne Cummings, Diana Bradley, and Shannon Kenny, Scholastic News Science Readers, grade 2. And last but not least, Whiting School, Stephanie Boyd, the ADA compliant picnic table for all. the Sheffield Polar Heart Rate Monitor straps. Did I get that Thank you.
I know we say this every year, but again, the PTA does an outstanding job. Mrs. Don, you do a great job. Not only do you do the mini grants, but the various programs throughout all the schools. Things that we would not be able to provide. So there'll never be a shortage of ideas from our teachers. I can tell you that. So anything that you can do as far as the PTA is certainly appreciated. So thank you very much on behalf of you. Thank you. Next item is we have a presentation from two of our administrators, Mrs. Rosa and Mr. George will be doing the park presentation, which are the test scores which were released. I'll turn the program over to you.
Thank you, sir.
They're going to spend some money again? It's okay. Take a minute. I think they're ready for you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. It is our pleasure to present to you the park results for Manchester Township School District for the spring of 2015. Am I loud enough? Sorry. Okay. So, as you probably are aware, in 2015, New Jersey adopted the Partnership for Assessment of College and Career Readiness, which is called PARC. PARC actually replaced HESPA and previous assessments, which you probably know as the New Jersey Act. Students took the PARC English Language Arts Literacy in grades 3 through 11, and then in mathematics, they took the assessments in grades 3 through 8, and then end-of-course assessments in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2.
And 8th grade tends to be a little bit unique in the sense that some students took the Algebra 1 exam in the 8th grade, and some students took the 8th grade math test. So that's one unique grade level. But the goal tonight is really just to try to provide some perspective on the scores as they have been reported, and to give out some of that information, some of the changes in this testing as opposed to some of the previous testing.
So what makes this test a little bit different? One key change is the way they actually assess or actually assign levels, and they're called performance levels. So if you can see here, the park actually uses 5 performance levels. The levels will actually demonstrate a child or student's grade level expectations or their end of course expectations. So if you're looking at level 1, a child that would receive that score did not meet expectations either at grade level or at end of course. At level 2, they partially met expectations. At level 3, they approached the expectations. At level 4, they met the expectations. And if a child receives a level 5, they actually exceeded expectations. The nice thing about this is you can see that it is a continuum. You're not looking at absolute achievement. What you're looking for is growth. The other thing that I do kind of want to stress with everyone is that although we feel that PARC is certainly a valid test, we want you to understand that still in Manchester we'll be using a multiple measure system, which is what we've always used. So this would be one component of the way we would assess student learning, but it wouldn't be the only component. The other components would be grading, report cards, teacher input, and of course parent feedback. So, you know, this would be a portion of what we would be looking at in terms of assessing student learning and growth. Okay, so we thought we'd give you a frame of reference and actually talk about how the state of New Jersey did overall. So this particular chart actually is the outcomes for mathematics across all students who participated in PARC in 2015. We will have future slides that kind of compare, but we thought it would be a good starting point. if you notice, you'll see that, of course, we're talking about, once again, those levels of performance. And if you just kind of look at grade 3 across, you'll see that students started in level 1, 8% in the 3rd grade, level 2, 19%, level 3, 28%, level 4, 37%, and then level 5, 8%. The one thing I do want to make sure that you're aware of is that they're not, some of them, those numbers will not round, they're rounded up, so they won't equal 100. The other thing I want you to understand is that what we thought was really important is to look at that last column all the way to the right, because those are the percentages that really let you know kids that met the expectations and students that actually exceeded the expectations. And you can see that the numbers go from 45 all the way down to the lowest, which is 24. So out of the state of New Jersey, that's kind of giving you a scope and a reference of what we're looking at when we're looking at Manchester scores.
And here's the same idea for language arts. So again, across the top you have, again, if we take 3rd grade as the example, 15% of the students did not meet the proficiency, 18% partially met it, 24 were approaching expectations, 39% were meeting expectations, and 5% were exceeding expectations. Again, that last column gives you the percentage of students who were in either meeting or exceeding the expectations. And again, in language arts, they range from a high of 52 in the 5th grade, in the 7th grade, and the 8th grade, to a low of 37% in the 10th grade. But those just kind of give you an idea of where are kids meeting and exceeding the expectations, again, across the state. We're going to start to look at Manchester in relation to the state and in relation to the park states as well.
The other thing we kind of want to impress upon you is that everything that we've been hearing is to use this information as a baseline year. So although you may feel tempted to try to compare it to other assessments, previous assessments like the HESPA or perhaps the NJS, that really wouldn't be appropriate because that actually is a very different type of assessment. It's not a norm reference assessment, it's not a nationally referenced assessment, and the other thing is that this particular assessment, PARC, was really assessing students' performances in college and career readiness. So if you were going to try to compare it, then you should probably compare it with other norm reference assessments, such as the SAT, the ACT. Of course, in Manchester, we were lucky enough to be picked, I think, on several occasions to give the NAEP. So we had given the NAEP in the middle school. We also gave the NAEP at Ridgeway, I think, at least 3 times here. But if you're looking at those types of assessments, those are actually measuring college and career readiness. And so if you see there, oh, sorry, got a little ahead of myself. But if you see on the top, you'll see that PARC ELA grade 4 was 51%. The 2013 NAEP reading grade 4 was 42%. And if you look at that column all the way down, and even if you look at the SAT score of 44%, you can see that PARC is trending very similarly with those nationally normed assessments.
No, I mean, that's just, again, the idea is that we can't compare the PARC to the ASK, but we can talk about the PARC relative to other nationally normed tests, and these are examples of other nationally normed tests. And the idea is that they are somewhat similar in regards to the outcome.
So now to our data. We're going to start with the elementary schools, and the nice thing about breaking this down is we're able to break it down, which is the first column all the way to the far left is actually PARC scores. They're actually any state that was involved in administering the PARC. The next one is the state of New Jersey, those scores. Of course, we are able to actually pull out MTS, Ridgeway, and Whiting, and then we are also able to give you district scores, which would be a combination of all the four elementary scores.
And then the color bands bottom to top represent the performance levels. So the blue on the bottom is not meeting expectations, the red is partially meeting, the green would be approaching, and then it would be the purple band where we meet expectations, and the blue band on top is where we are exceeding expectations.
So once again, those levels of performance, if you're looking at and thinking in terms of numbers, the dark blue on the bottom would be a level 1, the red would be a level 2, the green would be a level 3. But I think the thing for us to look at as a district is really if you could take almost like a ruler and go across the data and really look at these 2 top bands. because these are the students that actually either met or exceeded grade level expectation. The reason I'm saying grade level expectation is because we're talking about grade 3. So if you're looking at that line, if there's more purple and light blue, then that particular column, they did very well. So I'm going to just shift over here, excuse my back. But if you look at 42 and then the 3, Whiting did very, very well because we're talking about 45%. And if you're looking at the Park, that would be 38%. And of course, if you're looking at the State, that would be 45%. So if you're kind of looking at in your mind, now the thing is that we also want to make sure that we're considering these students that are in the approaching, because they need something. We need to either elevate our practice or figure out what particularly are the areas that we can bring them and push them into this particular level, which is what we're trying to do. We're looking at the growth of our students or our children. Good? Are there any questions about that particular slide? Because they're all kind of like that, and we want to make sure that you really do get a sense of understanding. Is that good? Huh? Okay. So, here we go with language arts, grade 3, and you can see that obviously once again we have Park, State, District, and then our schools.
And this one's pretty closely grouped, and if you look at our district, we're at 40% of our students are meeting or exceeding the proficiency levels, whereas the State was at 44% and the Park was at 38%. And that in the elementary seems to be a pretty consistent trend, that we're right there slightly outperforming Park, and we're kind of slugging it out with the State in regards to where we fall in those proficiencies. And then the 3 columns on the right give you the indications of the 3 elementary schools in the district and how each one performed as well.
Grade 4 math. So if you happen to see in this particular slide, you can see that once again you have Park, State, District, MTS, Ridgeway, and Whiting. Of course, if you're looking at the last column, you'll see that we put the 20, the purples there, but we did not have anyone in particular that actually exceeded. However, and the same happens to be in Ridgeway. We have 36%. But if you're capturing the kids that were in the green at Whiting School, that overall is 73% of your students. And that actually was really good because the Park actually had 62% capturing those 3 bands from the top. And that actually even exceeded the State, talking about Whiting School. So you can see once again, the elementaries are falling pretty consistent. And the picture is very much that we are either very close to the State and we are somewhat either exceeding the Park.
And here, if you look at the top 3 band levels, we're at 81% as a district. The State is at 70%. So 81% of our kids are either approaching, meeting, or exceeding expectations. And obviously, as Diane pointed out, the name of the game here is growth over time. This is our first benchmark year, but that's a good percentage of students to see moving along in that pattern.
This is a very good picture as well. Grade 4 language arts. So if you're looking at this particular slide, you'd see that Park, just the purple and the light blue on the top is at 42%. The State is at 51%. And as a district, we're at 59%. That's a pretty good picture. I do want to highlight that MTS was at 59%. And then when you capture even the kids that were approaching, we're at 91% there. And of course, Ridgeway did very well, also 65%. So once again, we have a very good picture of where those kids are that are meeting or exceeding. And then if you're talking about those kids that are approaching, we're doing very well.
90% of our kids in grade 4 language arts are approaching, meeting, or exceeding expectations in grade 4 language arts.
And this is grade 5 math. Once again, I always kind of keep my eye to that purple and light blue band. So if you're looking at the Park, you're talking about 32%. The State was 41%. Here, I think as a district we were 37%, but you can see that MTS did very, very well there. They actually captured 53%. In terms of Ridgeway, we were at 22%, but when you're looking at the approaching, that was 61%. And of course, Whiting, 41%. and then capturing that 31, you would talk about 72%. So it shows a very good picture, and it gives us some good information and a baseline to start. So, here we go on to the middle school. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I just switched all our kids, sorry.
No, and again, we see a similar trend in grade 5 language arts. 52% of our students as a district are meeting or exceeding expectations, 51% across the state, and 40% across the park. So, again, following a similar trend there.
Yeah, and this actually was a very good pattern as well, because if you're really looking at where we were in terms of even just our schools, I mean, Whiting did it very, very well, 55%. You're talking about 47% at Ridgeway and 57% at MTES. So, the schools are really kind of very much in line. It's nice to see that because in a way, you're seeing a lot of consistencies. You're also seeing that, even our approaching, that they're very much following in line, and it's a nice picture to have at the elementary. Of course, now we are talking about 6th grade math. So now the middle school. And these charts in particular, the reason why you see 3 columns is because the middle school stood alone, so the middle school would be referring to them as the district. In this particular slide, once again, going from the bottom, that dark blue would be the 1, all the way up. So if you're looking at the band on the top, you'd see that Park is at 32%, the state is at 41%, and we happen to be at 32%. 6th grade language arts, once again, Park, state, and middle school. You'll see that the Park, the purple and that light blue is at 39%, 49% in the state, and then 37% at the middle school.
And then again, when you bring in the approaching, the green band, that bumps us above the park. 73% of our kids are approaching, meeting, or exceeding, whereas 70% of the kids from the park are doing that. And 77% though of the state are doing it.
And it's
So
still
again,
very close because, that actually shows us that we're pretty much in line of where kids are almost going to be at grade level. So it's still a very good picture. 7th grade math. This actually shows us that the park was at 29%, the state was at 37%, and the middle school was at 30%. However, once again, similar slide, if you're looking at that band of approaching, the park was at 63% and the middle school was at 67%. 7th grade language arts, we're looking at that purple and that light blue band on the top, 42%. The state was at 52%, and then the middle school being at 36%. But if you capture that group that was approaching, we're very much in line because we would be at 63%. Now, this slide is going to be a little bit different because understand that when you're talking about 8th graders that took a math assessment, you're actually talking about just those that actually were not taking advanced level coursework. The state allowed any student that was a middle schooler that was taking algebra to take the Algebra 1 assessment. So this data is only students that took 8th grade math park assessment. It does not include all of the middle school students because those students actually took the Algebra 1 assessment.
But interesting enough, we're still, the picture is very similar. 25% of our kids were meeting or exceeding, 24% of the state was meeting or exceeding, and 27% of the park was meeting or exceeding. So obviously the same situation across the state and the park in regards to what 8th grade math students took the test. And as a result, the numbers are close as well.
8th grade language arts. If you're looking at the middle school, you'll see that 44% actually met or exceeded in comparison to the state of 51%, but we did actually outperform the park, which was at 42%. And then, of course, Algebra 1, you'll see that there's more columns here, and the reason being is that all the way to the far right is the middle school. Those would be the students that were in our high-achieving students that actually took the Algebra 1 as an 8th grader because they were in Algebra 1 at the middle school. So in comparison, you can see that I mean, the band, I said at the beginning, please look at the purple band. I mean, it tells a pretty interesting picture. For me, the one thing that really stood out is that we're identifying our students properly for that particular class. And you can see, I mean, it's hard to see there, but there's a 0 at the bottom, which meant that there was no one that actually did not meet at the middle school in Algebra 1, the course expectation.
So for those who can't see, it's 86% of the middle school students were meeting or exceeding the expectations in Algebra 1.
I'm pretty sure you can see all that purple back
Yeah.
there, right? And then, you know, the thing is that if you look at the park, we've had conversations about this because, you know, what we might have done in New Jersey may be a little different than what they did in the Park States. Did they test their 8th graders in the same way? You know, you're not really sure, but what we can see is that in the Park States, 31% of the students actually met or exceeded. And then, of course, in the state, 36%. And then, of course, as a district, we're taking that combination, and so we have 20% actually met or exceeded, and then at the high school, we're talking about 8%, but if we capture that 15%, we're at 23%. So, English 9. English 9 Park scores, you can see that the top 2 bands are at 40%. The state was at 39%, and then the high school was at 21%. So I don't know if, I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't say this at the beginning, but the other thing is that this is the first time that the state of New Jersey has actually given, and of course, assessments in geometry and Algebra 2. The nice thing about that is it will actually give our teachers a lot of information to gauge their instruction. So this particular slide actually captures that, and you can see that the students that did take it in Manchester Township High School, that of those students, 6% actually met or exceeded, in comparison to the park, which was 27%, and the state, which was 23%. English 10 at the high school, once again, Park was at 37%, the state was at 36%, and the high school was at 23%. Algebra 2. So once again, this is the first time that we've given an end-of-course assessment for Algebra 2. I do want to also say that the way the state actually captures this data is for geometry and Algebra 2, in order for a student to actually pass and meet a graduation requirement, they could actually fall in the 3, 4, or 5 range. So in this particular slide, we would be looking at 8% of our students that actually met or exceeded, and then the 11% would be the approaching, which would give us an overall score of 19. In comparison to the park, which was 21%, capturing, obviously, the approaching is 42%, and you can see the numbers for the state as well. English 11, park numbers were at 39%, the state was at 41%, and the high school was at 19%.
And this was also a grade level where approaching, meeting, or exceeding would meet the graduation requirement for English 11, which would mean that 47% of our students at the high school met that score.
In comparison, obviously, to the state, which is 64% if you were capturing, and then the park would be 63%. So, what does this mean for us? Well, these questions are actually questions that we are having and posing with our principals and looking for, building level assessment committee meetings to come together to actually look at the data and to actually determine strengths and gaps, perhaps either in practices, perhaps in curriculum, looking at resources, having conversations. I will tell you that we had park presentations to actually assist parents in interpreting the data and understanding the score report, and we were able to have great conversations with the parents that attended about where's their child in terms of some of the subclaims, or breaking it down between reading and writing. In addition to that, I think the information, although it does give us a baseline, it gives us a starting point to have conversation about what professional development do we need. And of course, this is our plan for how we really need to analyze this data and what we need to be doing. Of course, we're at the first step right now, presenting to the board, just district level and school level data, breaking it down in the schools at both, department levels and grade levels, having conversations about the subgroups, and of course, looking at those subclaims, really breaking it down. We've been informed that the state will give us some item analysis. It will also give us some student level analysis. So that would be very helpful for us to be able to use in our buildings, to be able to really isolate what areas we need to be working on with our students. And of course, we did include, and this PowerPoint will actually be placed online. So if you were not able to see all the numbers, I really do apologize, but it will be online. And we are providing lots of resources that both the state gave us, and we also placed on our district website. So the last link is actually on the Manchester homepage, and it gives you resources about the actual assessment, what the test items look like, how to interpret the data. So all of that can be found in one place on the main homepage of Manchester. Are there any questions? Yes.
So what you're saying is with the graduation requirements, Algebra 2, so that means only 19% of our students actually met that graduation requirement in Algebra 2.
By using the assessment for Algebra 2, that would
So
be...
now those only 19%, so the rest of the students would then at that point be using the SAT or the PSAT.
They would be using another alternate.
Which is the majority of the students.
Correct.
19% is very low.
Correct.
And now you also said 44% met in the beginning.
I'm sorry.
The SAT 2015, SAT 44% met college and career ready benchmarks. What was the score? What is the score that is needed in the SAT for
Okay,
to
so
reach it?
that we actually took from the state site, and what they actually they gave us was that 80% of New Jersey seniors took those assessments. Of those assessments, 44% met college and career readiness.
Okay.
So it was their scale, and they converted that.
Wait, so only 44% met the high school requirement?
No,
Met what they deemed as college and career ready.
college and career readiness component of the SAT.
Okay. That doesn't necessarily.
No,
Just
not the
anything
overall,
about
not the overall.
the overall.
No.
Okay.
Both the SAT and the ACT set their own standards for what college.
For that particular, they
That's
had
different,
a
right.
subcomponent.
Same.
Okay.
It was a
Not the same
subcomponent.
as, okay.
So that's actually why we did it as a breakout on the side.
Okay.
What's our graduation rate next year?
Our graduation rate from last year. I think it was 80. I mean, we can get that back to you, but we know that that was part of our conversation.
I will say, I have to give kudos to the guidance department, high school administration, Diane and Alex have been working very hard, the supervisors, working very hard in getting all the different options for our students to graduate. We're at, from this year's seniors, we have a very small number compared to a lot of districts because we have offered the SAT twice. We've offered the ACT, we've offered the Accuplacer, we've offered ASVAB. There are a number of different options, and we've exercised all of those options to give the students opportunity. I think we're looking at maybe 14 students.
Overall, right now, that we're looking at about 14 students.
That have met
And
requirements.
that number could be lower because we just received the information about the new PSAT, and we actually have the new cut score for that. So I'm telling you 14, but it could be slightly lower.
The PSAT scores, what are they from? The test they just.
They were just released in January.
They were just released, yes. And we actually just received, the kids should be receiving those scores as
The
well.
students have the scores. We haven't gotten, as a building, we haven't gotten all of the roster report yet, but we do have an idea of those scores.
So we have these 14 students you identified as danger of not graduating this year. How many have we placed in the SOAR or asked to join the SOAR program?
Actually, I mean, they can correct me, the high school, if I'm wrong, but none of those students are in the SOAR program. They are all in the college and career readiness class.
Because they would be seniors who pretty much will have the graduation requirements as credits. But they'd be lacking that. Now, I don't, not that I want to put you on the spot, Linda, but I know Linda and Maureen have been doing a lot of work with the alternative portfolios and actually helping the county in many cases. Not that I want to put you on the spot, but if you could just talk a little bit about if they don't meet that testing requirement, what we have been doing for
Sure.
those students?
In December, the county came together at Manchester Township High School to develop the appeal assessments for students who hadn't met the graduation requirement. What that means is we had to create the assessments. We brought teachers in from all over Ocean County. Administrators also came. They created assessments in language arts and math. In the past, the state has provided those assessments to us. Now, we have to create our own assessments. We have to grade our own assessments and submit those to the state. So our district has been working very closely with the state of New Jersey and districts from around Ocean County to create those assessments. They're all on Google Drive. We share them. We have corrected them. There's a whole appeal process in place. We're in good shape with that. We have the assessments created. We have all the documentation needed to submit for every student who has not met the graduation requirement. That process started on January 11th, and it's actually a rolling process. You can keep submitting assessments, and the state tells you whether the student passed or not, and then you can, if they didn't pass, you can resubmit another assessment. So, you know, we are in very good shape. There are other districts who have hundreds of students.
And I will say that you have taken the leadership with the county. You're the one that set up the meeting. The county thought it was a good idea, so you invited all of the districts to come and join. I think the fact that they all kind of combined, rather than everybody inventing their own proficiencies, you basically took the lead. So I want to thank you for doing that.
Very much.
I think the county was really,
It's all good kids.
They were.
yes.
Okay, then let's question on the SOAR program then. How many students do we have in the SOAR program at the time?
Right now, we have 6 or 7, I believe.
I think it's 7.
6 or
There's
7,
7.
and there's a couple intakes coming up.
Okay, so that's short of the 15 we were hoping for.
Oh, you don't put 15 the first day of school and then work
I
short.
understand that, just saying we're short of the 15 we were hoping for.
Well, we weren't hoping for 15 on the second week of school, I can say that.
Okay.
Okay, well, we will be working for it.
Could you tell us what grade level those students we have are?
Right now, I think primarily they're 9th graders,
Maybe 10.
and there's, I believe, 2 10th
I know
graders.
it's 10th grade.
And to answer your question, the students that we were talking about for the graduation, and those students that would need the appeal, we were extremely complimented by the county and also many people that we work collaboratively with in terms of creating these CRTs for the appeal process, for being so proactive, having our college and career readiness course, because it really allowed us to be able to assist a lot of those students. Unfortunately, we had a rather high number initially, and we were able to really bring that down by remediating, providing that differentiated instruction, giving them access to the AccuPlacer. And the reason why those particular students happen to be in the SOAR program is because the appeal process happens to be a very detailed and very careful process. So we want to make sure that they're being instructed, that those teachers are able to pick CRTs that are specifically designed to show that they've mastered and accomplished what they need to when we send them up to the state. We also, Mr. Pate, we sent out a couple of samples. The state had said they knew we were working in conjunction across the county, and they were willing to look at some of our samples of our CRTs. And the feedback was very good. There were some revisions that we had to make, but we've been working with other districts throughout the county. So our feel is that we can bring that 14 down and not have to have as many students go through that appeal process. But the bottom line is we're ready, because we want to make sure that we're able to help those students to graduate.
Would it be possible for us to get a copy of the curriculum for this college and career readiness program?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'd like to see that.
Absolutely.
I think actually the county.
Requested, he
The county
really was very pleased with it.
Yeah, we have to send it to the county, and then they asked if we would be able to release it to all of those that actually are part of that meeting.
I understand what you're saying,
But we'd be
compliments are very nice.
But we'll be happy, yes, we'll be happy to give you that.
Well, the other thing, Mr. Pate, is that we were proactive in creating that course, because in the past, we had the HESPA classes. When I was an English teacher, I used to teach those HESPA classes, some of them. And so we knew we needed to replace that with some kind of remediation for for students who needed it to support them. Because at that point, we hadn't really gotten as much guidance from the state as we thought we were going to get. So we created the course, the curriculum was written, and those students funneled through that class, and there really are, we have a certified English teacher, a certified math teacher, and it seems to be working very well for them.
All you're saying sounds very good, but like I said, that doesn't translate into numbers. I'd like to see, of course, if we could.
We'll certainly get the curriculum for you for both the math and the language arts.
Just according to the state, what is an acceptable level of non-graduating? I don't know that. What percentage do they say should be graduating? 95, 97,
yeah,
100 obviously.
It's 95%.
And that's students that enter as freshmen graduating in 4 years?
Yes.
Yes, in 4 years.
Okay, and there's many other tangibles. I mean, are we doing a better job of tracking those students that transfer
We
away
are
and getting
actually,
numbers back and all those kinds of things?
you know that we've recently been monitored. They came in, they did the DIP monitoring in November, and we had to provide them with a lot of documentation about how we are actually tracking that. The vice principals at the high school have been giving me reports every 4 or 5 weeks to make sure that we are tracking those particular students. Of course, we had conversations with the county about, so we're talking about 4 years of graduation, so even if you're doing it in 5, those numbers still fall against us. But the overall number is 95%, and we did not meet that.
Actually, if you have a student that graduates in 3 years, which doesn't happen often, but it does happen, also comes with your money.
Correct.
Makes no sense. Welcome to New Jersey.
Are there any other questions? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice job. Sure. Okay, just a few things from my view on the superintendent's report. I do want to thank, we had the park meetings at this time in January. We had the high school in December, but we had our park meetings in the middle school and the elementary school. The principals, myself, Mr. George, the supervisors, Mrs. Pedroza, explain a little bit more about the park and the individual school reports. We had mailed the school reports out to the parents, and then in a matter of 2 or 3 days, we had meetings. Most of the parents brought the individual school reports, so we were able to break down what exactly the individual school reports were. We'd love to have seen more people there, but I think the people that were there got a lot out of it and understood exactly what the park was trying to accomplish, and really where their students stood, and understanding that it's really only one snapshot, one test score, and it's a baseline year. So it not only gives the parents an idea of what their individual students do, but also gives the school an idea of where our strong points are. So they did a very nice job on those presentations. I will echo Mr. Webster's. We was fortunate to attend the Martin Luther King program. Outstanding. Our kids do a great job. We had a very good speaker, and again, the enthusiasm and the excitement that comes through that program. Our kids do a great job. So I want to thank him and Mrs. Rutz, Mrs. Slater for organizing that. In the high school, just to make a special recognition, we did have now the Hawks Hall of Honor, which really recognizes our alumni who have been served in the military. We had 3 that it's in memory of, three of our alumni who have passed, Nick Ott, Ron Kubik, and Matt Zegan. And Jill O'Cone put that together, and we also have obviously a number of our alumni who are currently or just recently serving in the military, and I do want to obviously highlight our Mr. Webster, Mr. Pate for their sons and their services, and their pictures look great up there, so it's a very nice tribute, and that is going to be added on. We're starting, once people have seen that, they are now putting some information into Jill, I know, of adding more and more pictures, so it's obviously a great service, and we're very proud of the alumni who have served in the military. Upcoming meetings, just to go through quickly, We will have I'm going to hold a block scheduling parent meeting at the high school. That'll be Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We'll get that out on the webpage, and we'll do an all-call for that. Talk a little bit about the information system session and get an exchange of ideas there as far as the block. There will also we'll be holding in probably in the beginning of February. I wanted to move it back because of a couple other meetings, but we'll have our Alice parent meeting, which is, if you remember correctly, we talked a little bit about that. We've also talked about that to the staff, but the parents will be having a presentation on Alice, which is really a security measures to take in the event of an armed intruder or similar events. The police will be participating in that, so they'll be helping us with that. We're looking at that for probably the first week in February if we can get that finalized.
Will there be an last call out on that as well?
Yes, there will be. And that will be, we'll target the middle school and high school first, and then we'll do a separate one for the elementary, only because of the degree that you go through is a different level. So the first meeting will be middle school and high school, the second will be elementary. But again, we'll put blasts out at least a couple of days ahead of time. We also have contacted the police. They will be doing another meeting on social media. Obviously, the advantages of social media and the disadvantages of social media, some of the things that our students need to be a little bit more aware of. And that'll be a high school, middle school targeted there also. And the police will be doing that. And in lieu of that, what I've asked Mrs. Brasitis to do, and we're working on that, is coming up with a survey that'll go out to the community, the students, staff, and parents about any topics that they want, whether it's something on security, which will work with the police, other community situations. So once we get that survey up, that'll be up, and we'll try to get that out. We'll broadcast that out like we did on some of our other surveys, and we've gotten some pretty good responses as far as the surveys go. So Lee, I know, is working on that, and we'll get that out hopefully sometime next week, so we can get some topics for the rest of the meetings. So I'd like to have a little bit more parent involvement. That's one of the board's goals, and one of my goals is to get more parents involved, and obviously find some topics that they're interested in. I know social media is one that we always get when parents really, and being one, don't understand all the nuances with social media. Our students know a lot more. So some of the dangers, some of the things you have to be careful of when you involve that. But that's just one topic that I've come from parents, and I think that's a relevant topic. Lastly, January is School Board Recognition Month. So I do want to take a moment, and at various times of the year, obviously we recognize our students and our staff for many things, but January is, 2016 is School Board Recognition Month. And I will say, obviously, a lot of misunderstanding from what happens with the board members. I always chuckle when a parent comes up and says, the board members are not earning their salary. It's kind of tough to do because they don't get paid. They are volunteers. They do come out, and they're here because they want to do what's best for the school district and students. Many of them have had students previously. Some still have them. And it's an important part. We're looking at part of the board's goals is to do community goals, set goals, and set policy for the board and for the district. We're talking about over New Jersey, 1.4 million children in pre-kindergarten and 12th grade. And there's been a big push recently about removing some of the control from the local control and moving it to more of the state and more to the federal. And personally, I think that's not a very good idea, because no one knows the community of Manchester better than people who live in Manchester. And I think that's still a very, very important part. So local control of a board is very important, but unfortunately, many times they have their hands tied. But whenever they have access and they can make policy pretty much directed toward what our needs are in the local district, I think that's important. And also Lakehurst, too. And again, part of the job is to provide the resources necessary to meet the needs of all of our students, whether they're special needs students, whether they're gifted and talented students, a whole range, and that's what they do as a board. New Jersey, obviously, and I think that goes without saying, we take pride in our schools. As we look at no matter what test we come up, we rank very high in the state, 1, 2, 3. I think we do a very good job, but it's teachers, it's students, it's parents, but a lot also falls on school boards and what they do. So The last part is you'll see in your agenda, the resolution that the Manchester Township Board of Education recognizes the service of local school board members throughout New Jersey as we join in observing January 2016 as School Board Recognition Month. So from a superintendent and a business administrator, thank you for all you do, and thank you.
Mr. Lorenzo.
Yeah, just a couple quick items. You'll see on the agenda, we have the board meeting schedule listed again. Last month, well, actually this month, we had to change our May board meeting. That's the only change on the schedule. The May board meeting has to be prior to May 15th so that the board has time to take action on staff renewals. So we've moved that May meeting to May 11th. All the other dates are still the same. There's a bus disposal on the agenda for approval. This is a bus that was scheduled to be replaced anyway with our lease purchase that we approved a few months back, but in this case, the engine has died and it's just too costly to replace the engine for the age of the bus. So after we dispose it, we'll either use it for a trade-in or for salvage. Our next negotiations meeting is scheduled for February 11th, 2016 at 5:30. And then just a quick budget update. The 16-17 budget process is obviously well underway. At this point, we have not heard anything on funding, state or federal. The budget is currently being developed based on flat state aid and a 15% reduction in federal aid, because that's what we've been told in past years. Early in the process, it appears our health benefits renewals could have an impact on the budget. We're seeing an increase this year in the 15-16 budget in addition to special ed placements, which will have an impact on our 16-17 budget as well. Rising pension costs, liability insurance, and we've seen an increase in contracted special education transportation. All these things that I just identified are rising well above our 2% tax levy, so these are all things that are going to have an impact on what the budget looks like for 16-17. The administration will be meeting with the schools and with the department heads starting next week to start going through their budgets with them. I've already gone through all the entire budget and marked down some things, made some comments, and I'll have some recommendations at these meetings. The schools and the department heads will be presenting their budgets to the Board of Education at 2 meetings in probably late February. When we confirm those dates, we'll put those out there. And then the budget is due to the county office on March 22nd. So things are going to start happening. Now the governor's address is typically at the end of February where we find out the impact of our state aid and federal aid, and we'll move on from there. That's it.
Thank you, Craig. Any questions for Craig? Are there any committee reports? Hearing none. Is there any public participation on agenda items only? Seeing none. Is there any correspondence?
There's no correspondence.
Is there any old business from the board? Seeing none, we'll move into the action items under section 1A minutes, numbers 1 and 2. 1 through 4. I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, B, travel. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yeah.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, C, the school board recognition month resolution.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yeah.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, D, operations, revised meeting schedule of the board. I'll move it.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yeah.
Mr. Webster?
Yes. Okay, E, the disposal of bus.
Second.
I'm guessing, 267,000 miles is not that bad. I think we got our money's worth out of that.
Yeah, I would think so. It's a 2002. Typically they give you, I believe now they went from 12 to 15 years, so we're in our 14th year with the bus, and it was, like I said, it was scheduled to be replaced. It's just not cost effective to rebuild or replace the engine.
Got it. Roll call.
Will we receive notice of the service?
What's that?
Will we receive notice of the service this year?
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel? Mr. Pate? Mr. Webster?
Yes, section 2A administrative, number 1 through 3. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, B personnel, numbers 1 through 30. Need a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
Discussion. Would it be possible, Ms. Lawrence, in the future, on this, not just personnel, any of these things, any new ones that were added in since we got our copy on Friday to be highlighted in some way, so we don't have to read through all these times real quickly here to make a discussion? We used to highlight the number, it's just the number, so we knew which ones were added in since we got it.
Okay, no
That'd be a
problem.
little bit easier there.
Got it, good suggestion. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
I'm going to abstain on the number 17 on the whiting section. Yes, on all of them. Okay, and also on number 26.
Yes.
17, 26. Yep, got it. C student personnel. Number 1.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, D special services, number 1.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion. Ms. Lawrence, what was the approximate cost of these three replacements? Anybody off the top of your head?
Well, since they're coming in mid-year, between the three of them, I'm trying to think here, we're probably still looking at about $100,000. It was between $100,000 and $115,000.
Okay, were these new students who moved into district, or these are our former students that we
These,
classified in?
2 to 3 are moving.
2 or 3 are move-ins.
Thank you.
And again, these were obviously placements that were not in the original budget.
Right, that's what point I was trying to make.
And they're no longer waivable. So, just have to. Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate? Mr. Webster?
Yes, section 3A finance, numbers 1 through 5.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, public participation on any items? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, very good. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay.